beginning to understand that creation is better than consumption. And, I don't mean that in the sense that we should never consume anything, as in like a food sense or in like a physical sense. But I really just mean it in terms of just what we allow ourselves to do with our time. I think that honestly, if you look at almost any aspect of your life, that when you consume more than you create, then it's really just a negative thing. In terms of food, I don't necessarily mean cooking, but I mean in the sense that, if you eat way more than you exercise, or you gain calories way more than you burn calories, then what's going to happen? You're going to gain body fat on your body. And, not to get like political or anything, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I just mean in the sense that I think almost in everything that we do, it's better to create more than we consume. And that goes back to, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, but I think in our childhood, part of what made it so special, part of what made it so fun, is that we were creating more than we were consuming. There were times when we were bored with our time, and I don't think that's something that we find often anymore. There were times when we're so bored that, we'd have imaginary friends, or we'd make random games for ourselves, or we'd just daydream for hours. And I think that even in the sense of daydreaming, that's creation, it's not consumption. But nowadays in the society that we have, just because of the internet and then just the access that we have to everything and everybody, we almost lost that inherent creativity that we have within us. We lost not necessarily the ability to create, but we lost the love that we had for creation. So I think it's very important that we gain that back. I'm starting to understand that a lot personally, because as I just look into more of who my ideal self is and who I want to be, I'm recognizing that that person who I want to be, they create so much more than they consume. They don't spend hours a day on like YouTube or their phone or social media or anything like that. Instead, they're out doing something. They allow themselves to be bored, even in the face of all these things in our society. And in doing so, it just allows so much more to happen. Because I think that consumption is almost a selfish process, if that makes sense. Because when you consume something, you're taking it for yourself. But I think when we create, we're giving back to others. We're giving back externally instead of taking things in internally. And in doing so, I think that we just allow ourselves to gain clarity of mind. We allow ourselves to understand more about who we are as people, because then we're allowing the internal to become external. We're allowing what's inside to become outside, even if it's on a subconscious level. So I'm really starting to understand how important it is that we just gain that sense of creativity back. We gain that sense of creation back. And we allow ourselves to be bored more. Because, like I said, I think that being bored, it's such an important process. And it's something that I saw a few months ago, but it's like how hunger causes you to act, hunger causes you to eat, boredom causes you to do. And in doing, I don't think, obviously with like a moral standing behind it, but I think that doing, it's not something that can really be a bad thing. Even if you don't show anyone what else you're creating, even if it's just something for you, I think it can be a very enriching process. It could be a very fulfilling process, instead of creation where you're almost taking in what others are giving you. And you're not allowing any ideas to leave you. So I think that part of what creates so much confusion that we have internally nowadays is that we're not creating enough, is that we're not doing things that allow us to express our ideas, that allow us to express our internal. And like I said, it doesn't have to be like what I do with these videos or like artwork or even journaling sometimes. But in the sense that it doesn't have to be something that you show other people, but it has to be something that that you're doing yourself. And even on like a super, super deep level or a super, super extreme level to that, it's like I said earlier, I think daydreaming is a very valuable source of creation. Because we're just imagining things. It's not even that it has to be on a physical sense that you're creating anything. But I think that allowing yourself to create things, even if it's mentally, that then allows you to almost process your thoughts more. It just gives you a greater sense of peace. While consumption, it almost gives you a sense of like a high almost. So it's really just, it's almost the argument of pleasure versus peace. And I think that creation is peace, while consumption is pleasure. So it's really just whichever one you want to do, ultimately. But I'm just really starting to understand that I want to be someone that creates more than I consume. And I want to be more mindful of what I do consume. I don't want to input, things that, or negative things, and then output negative things. Because what you sow is what you reap. If you put something terrible into your mind, you're going to get something terrible out of your mind. So I'm really just starting to understand that it's important that we always just look at the duality of creation and consumption, and we just decide which one we want to do. Do we want to create more, or do we want to consume more? I have a Bible verse that goes with this pretty well, I think. It's more on the lines of consumption than on the lines of creation, but I think it's still resonant with the message that I have for this video. And it's taken from Proverbs 25, verse 16. And it says, if you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it and you will vomit. So it's really just like I said. It's almost like you need to let out just as much as you let in, if not more than you let in. And in doing so, I think it creates mental clarity. It creates that peace that I think that we all once had as kids, but something that we almost lost sight of as the world became more input-based and output-based. So yeah, that's just really what I'm thinking about a lot recently, especially today. And I hope you took something from the video, learned something. Yeah, thank you for watching.